Okay, so I don't know who this person is who wrote this, Rabbi Yerucham Erlanger, but let's see what he writes. Um, Sheila, Shalom Bracha, V'yasher Koyach Gadol. My Avdel Ben Neitz Astronomy and Neitz HaMishori. Let's imagine the astronomical nates and the nates of the plane. I don't think there actually is a difference between the two. The difference is actually between astronomical nates and the seen nates, but it could be that there are different types of terms that different people use. Shuva, Shalom Ubracha. So I think he's correcting his mistake, but let's see. Nogel Kriyas HaNates. According to determine the sunrise, what determines it is not the astronomical sunrise. The boundary at which the mathematical reckoning has Hashemesh Oberes Kava refractia, a sun going past the line of refraction. The some olah bekava ofek, and it goes up in the over the horizon, which means evidently not taking the refraction into account. Refraction makes the sunrise occur about a quarter of a degree earlier. Each degree is 15 minutes, so 7.5 minutes, right? So Dako Stein, no, quarter degree is, sorry, so 2 minutes, right? So Dako Stein, this is a minute or two. Ivnei Aliyat Gufa Shemesh before. We go by the nates which is seen by us. So, okay, so we go after the nates which is seen, but then there's a separate question, and which means that refraction is not taken into account, and therefore we go after it, and we see the sun despite the fact that the sun is still astronomically beneath the horizon. Okay, that doesn't bother, that doesn't concern us. But the question is, what's a Netzanira? Is it every place where you, based on what you see? There's a mountain which conceals the sunrise. And you have to wait until the sun is seen. Or if I'm sure to go by the sea level, actually not necessarily sea level, based on on the plane that you're on, really. If we remove all the mountains which hide the sun, here's the Shemesh will fall mamash. We'll see the sun actually. In other words, remove the mountains. Let's see the expanded response here. Mikorot. בעניין זה רבות דעות. בספר בין השמשות לרב טוקצ'ינסקי כתב שהערים הקרובים לעיר, hills which are near the city, כמו שמצאו בירושלים, שכולה ערים גבוהות, which is completely hills and mountains and hills, אין לחשב כלל בנץ הנראה בפועל. You should not look at how you actually see the sunrise. יש לחשב בנץ לפי האופק המישורי. You go after the horizon on a plane. We see the rise if it's completely a plane. When you see the sun according to the plane on which you're at, that's the time. And that's how we reckon the Netzach Chama in Luach Eretz, which he made, which is very widespread. So it's interesting because obviously Yerushalayim is not at sea level. So there's not, when you talk about Ofek Mishori here, I really never thought of this before, to be honest with you, to this moment. Ofek Mishori is at the normative level of Yerushalayim, whatever that may mean. I don't know how you define that, but it's not talking about at sea level because Yerushalayim is above sea level. Conversely, if you're at the Kinneret, right, and it's 200 and some odd meters below sea level, you're not going to go after sea level either. You're going to go after the Ofik HaMishori. You might take out all the Golan Mountains, but it's still going to be much earlier than it would be at sea level, right? So this is makes it very complicated because no astronomical table is going to go by that number. Sefer B'nai Tzion, Rav David Shapiro, he was very famous, and he had put in the international date line, which places it where about 135 degrees east of Yerushalayim. So he also was very much into astronomy. He's he doesn't like this assumption. To determine when it's day and when it's night is not something which is a function of based in or a function of a universal psak, but every person determines where he is. Like we just said, it's very difficult to ascertain what is an ofek mishori. So it can't be that that's the actual determining factor, because then you have to be an extraordinary expert in order to determine that. So the Rabbi Zalman also was the as Rabbi Tukachinsky and Rabbi Zalman were both Rabbanim in Eitz Chaim, both the Rabbeim there. And so I don't know if they talked about this in the halls and came to argue about it, but certainly it's quite likely. B'shuti growth Moshe, Chaim Simetzai Gzayin Yichmir B'yoter. It's very machzer shebnei hamakim tzrichim lachmir likvot zmanei hayom v'halayla lefi hanireh rosh haharim. So they go by the mountains around them, right? Which means that it's a sunrise is much later and sunset is much earlier. Okay. Not based on the plane. You actually have to see the sun, not just reckon it, but see it. The Sefer Nifreshet, the same real discussion, you take away the close mountains, not the far mountains, but domel anachato shel Rabbi Chiel Michal Tukachinsky. Insightful shadam shim samakon gavo over at the nates. The person standing in a high place, he does see the sunrise. That Rav Tukachinsky got Moshe Shailit Balash Manesre. He's certainly not that much Manesre at that point. The doctor of Meltzer, Adain who's a fake Lila. Actually, he has manha nates ofek hamishori. Even if he stands very high up, he can see it. You know, it still has to go by the Ofek HaMishori, which brings us, of course, to the fascinating question: what do you do in an airplane? Because in an airplane, the sun is going to rise very, very early relative to the place where you are, right? Because you're 30,000 feet up in the air. So nowadays, if you go to myzmanim.com, they will give you sunrise based, I think, on where you are in the air, not on what it is in the ground. But I'm not 100% sure about that. But that also brings to the logic dictates that it should go like Reb Moshe, that whenever you see the sunrise, Kazer Kadesh. The question is whether but because otherwise, again, like the Rav David Shapiro says, it's hard to imagine how anybody's supposed to ascertain this in the days before calculations were available, in charts and such like. The doctor of Meltzer that is the Veglaya should get Zman and Nates of we show you the doctor of Shapiro. Zman Lefia Nates and goes on the time when you would see it at that place on an Ofek Mishori. Some people say it goes after the plane at that place on the in the valley. Goes by when you see it. Those say it's when he hears the end of the mountains. Those things between close and near mountains. Many people go after the nates on the plane. Daven at nates is only hit or mitzvah. So, again, all this is very nice, but questions, what do you do when you can't see the sun? Back in the days before there were charts, all these things are very difficult. His conclusion also is not clear, right? Because nobody goes out to look outside and see when they see the sun. Clearly, everybody's lying on some sort of table. What is the table they're lying on? Determined, and how accurate is it for every place, depending on the elevation in that place. It's a very unsatisfying psak. Let's go to see somebody else on this topic. This is from the, I have no idea how reliable this is. Another from another website, Hidabrut. Shalom Arav. רציתי בקשה לדעת הגדרה של הנץ. האם יש שתי שיטות, שזה בעצם נץ האסטרונומי ונץ הנראה, שתלוי בסברה, האם יצא מעט אור שמשפיע, או כל הגלגל של זה הרע לעין. Not sure what he means by that. I mean, it is, when you do mat or mashpia, it does mean the sun without even seeing the body of the sun, whatever. Shushnia sheyesh shalosh sugim, שזה נץ אסטרונומי והנראה שיצא מעט, והנראה מאוחר שיצא כל גלגל. Okay, when the sun is rising. מערכה בקרב בני ספרד, על פי רבי יצחק יוסף, כי יש מה בלבול בדעותיו. תודה מראש. שלום ברכה. ילקוט יוסף קיצור של אורח חיים סימן פ"ט בהלכות תפילה וזמנה. ג' אין לציבור להסתכל למרום לצפות לזריחה להתפלל מיד. You're not supposed to look up and look for the sunrise and then daven. נכון להתפלל בזמן הנצח על פי הלוח והשעון המדויק. Whereas best to use a calendar and a precise clock. Now, what does it mean nachon? Until 150 years ago, nobody was doing this anywhere, right? So this is a modern convention. זמן תפילת ותקינו מיד כשניכרת תפילת צריכת השמש על העולם. It's immediately when you can see the sun coming out. Look, don't wait until the entire disk is visible. ואף שבשו"ת איש מצליח, דף ס"ג ב' כתב, זמן הנץ לאחר שכל גלגל חמה יצא לארץ, it's after the entire sun has come out on the earth, הנה מדברי ראשים מבואר בזמן שלו כשהתחיל הגלגל חמה לראות. וזו של ספר אשכול, תחילת הראות פניה, לא כתב כל פניה. כן דעת הראש, בתוספות, שיטה מקובצת, וריטווה, ביומה, ותוספות בידו חסיד, והטור, ועין שם בבית יוסף בשם מריה בואב. כן דעת המרא מפנו, ושגת אריה, והפרי חדש. ואין לכם בלשונות הראשונים, דהיינו לאחר שיצא כל גלגל חמה, you don't have to have difficulty with the language of Rishonim after the entire disk has come out. Ela pshat lo yuvshat. Well, I'm not sure what he means by that, but the pshat will not be skint. Means that the nates begins with the very Rishonim achronim, Rishonim achronim are now led. ואנחנו ללכת אחר נץ האסטרונומי, כפי שמופיע בלוח ביקורי יוסף, וכדומה המתבוסס המבוסס על זריחה מוקדמת ביותר, הנראית מעל האופק המזרחי האמיתי. בנקודה כלשהי ביישוב, מדי יום ביומו בסיוע מודל טופוגרפי ממוחשב של ארץ ישראל. So evidently this luach has a topographical map of Israel, which takes into account the horizon, or the sunrise over the true horizon meaning without the mountains, right? The Nates Hanira in that place, right? The which is again, I call it Nates astronomy here, but it's really not an Nates astronomy if you go by sea level. It's Nates astronomy only if you go by the altitude in that place.
Right.
It's from the Yalkut Yosef. So then he says, and skipping Nenira, well, basically, the two tshuvot we just saw on these two different websites, they contradict each other. The first one said that B'nai Tereh follow the Netz Hanira, and this one says that you follow the Netz Astronomy. Okay? Let's try a third site. Netz Chama. Netz Chama Motia Batar. I guess they have in the yeshiva.org.il, they have, let's make this a bit bigger. Okay. But you know, Netz Hanira Kamot Abayim. It's a Netz Hanira for the following places: Eilat, Beersheba, Beit El, Bat Yam, Cholon, Haifa, Tvelia, Yerushalayim, Tzfat, Tel Aviv. B'shar Mekomot Azman Mofia Ina Netz HaAstronomy. So evidently, the computer model is not available for each and every place. There's a place where the computer model is available. use computer model for Netzanira. Again, it's not clear which Netzanira they're using, with Benikuyarim or not Benikuyarim, but they're using Netzanira. Other places, they have Netz Astronomy. And Rav Deblitsky had Jinka Lechet Al Pizman Zeli Inyan Tfilah Kvatikin, Chatchila Linan Kol Mitzvot Shemitzvatan Bayom. So Rav Deblitsky went after, I'm not sure that I mentioned Rav Deblitsky last week, but I'm not sure exactly what they're saying here. It's very unimpressively worded when it says that Rav Deblitsky and Jinka Lechet Al Pizman Zeli, so going according to the Netz HaNireh, those cities, or the Netz Astronomy and Shar Makomot. So I'm pretty sure he's going after the Netz HaNireh. Shlomo said go after the Netz HaNireh. Netz HaNireh Mechushav Pi Aleph. The topographical height of the highest place in the area. Which again leads to the question, like I said to you last week, you go to the highest building in Yerushalayim, which at that time was 3 stories, or you go to the highest building in Yerushalayim today, which said whatever it is, 20, 30 stories. Okay, so taking count the high mountains, not the high mountains in the distance, not the close mountains, like Rav Kuczynski said, you take those away. Which is the one that the Yalkut Yosef just referenced. Okay, so Pratim Nosafim, see, etc. Which is also, it's going to be a separate question. What Netz do you start from? So, Anu Machashiyat Katiyom Apia Netz Astronomy. Dino Apia Kava Ofek Begova Ayam. We haven't even had this yet. The Kava Ofek Begova Ayam, which is the absolute astronomical sunrise. So this begs the question: why are you going after Kava Ofek after sea level if you're at the Kinneret or you're high up in the Cheremon? So Psikazu Naset Api Svarat Harav Chaim Keller. It's a svara. Okay, I want to stress that because that means that we're using the svara of a 21st century rabbi in order to determine halacha, which is fundamentally an issue of already thousands of years. He says the time when we daven is determined by when we see the sun in actuality. Like we've seen some of the midrashim and mitarim at that tefillah shalanu l'Hashem kineged tefillat olamot olam mitpalim l'Hashemesh. That we daven to Hashem at the same time the nations of the world daven to the sun. The ones which are variables. Used to reckon based on a sundial. Shel Hayom. So Shemesh lo mushpa me'astara kemet ba'ofek. It's nothing to do with with any hiddenness of the horizon. El mechushab often astronomy lefi gova hashemesh b'shamayim. It goes by the astronomical height of the sun in the sky, which have no bearing on when it rose. They have no bearing on that. Somebody wrote me a note on our last see if you can find it quickly. I think I'll share screen for a second. The kids are all this is very confusing. It's an understatement.
I'm not the one that has to publish the luach in the neighborhood.
Okay, so let me share this here with you. Okay, can you see this?
Now I can.
What?
Now I can, yes.
So, and our last, I know part 15 was not our last part, but in any event, he writes, and Casimer writes, sundials measure solar hours very close to clock hours, not shows manios.
How can that be?
So I think we should look at how sundials work. Let's share a different screen now. A sundial is a horological device that tells the time of day when direct sunlight shines by the apparent position of the sun in the sky. In the narrow sense of the word, it consists of a flat plate, the dial, and a gnomon, which casts a shadow onto the dial. So I think it's correct. I think it does show, in other words, high noon, and well, I'm not sure. Uh, The sun moves the sky, the shadow lines are different hour lines. Your marker and dial to indicate the time of day. Styla is its time telling. So yeah, otherwise it'd have to.
Look at what he says. Wait a minute, come back up a bit.
What?
Go up a little bit. um, the style, the last sentence, the last paragraph. The style must be parallel to the axis of the Earth's rotation for the sundial to be accurate throughout the year. Style's angle from horizontal is equal to the sundial's geographical latitude. So it's actually, apparently, it actually does work more or less like a clock.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, this seems to indicate that that's where it works. That is the shadow moving around the clock.
Okay.
It's always the same. It's always going to say solar time. I mean, yeah, so it shows hours on the which actually I mentioned several weeks ago. The Pnei Yoshua says that Pnei Yoshua says that there's no such thing as shows manios. Everything is the show's cool. It's 3 hours on the clock, 60 minutes every day. If you're going if a sundial's determining the time of day, then that makes sense
Okay.
because the sundials don't fluctuate. So the shows manios was not. If you're going to go by sundial, it's not so simple. So this fellow, Rabbi Keller, is mixing and matching several concepts here. So when he wants to use sundial to say sundial helps determine shows manios, on this other end, sundial doesn't measure shows manios. So anyway, the bottom line is that there's no definitive stock on any of these matters. One cannot say that the Netanir is correct. One cannot say the astronomical sunrise is correct because all these issues are 20th century or 19th century issues, to be precise. Before that, everybody went out, looked where the sun rose, and then made that vasikin. The question is, when is it an enhancement that one has these charts and tables, which now can help you determine it more precisely, and which we're going to make it earlier or later, depending on location. And it's not a simple question. There is no definitive resolution.
Okay. So like I have a program where you enter the latitude and longitude in order to compute the times of day. And I think it has an option to enter elevation if you know it.
Okay, it makes sense.
So it sounds like if you're entering elevation, that's from sea level. And so whoever wrote this went by sea level. Because I guess that's what the formulas for calculating are.
Well, this this Reb Chaim Keller does not go by sea level. He just didn't make the cheshbon for everywhere in Israel. Wherever he was able to, he made a topographical cheshbon. Right, so you'd have to know this program which you have would have to know. Yes, you would have to put in the topography because it's obviously not known for every place. Or wasn't the standard law was not made for every place. Okay, but I remember when I was time yeshiva, when I was with Davin Nates every Friday morning, there was a big issue. This is 40 years ago, which Nates to use, and I evidently still an issue today because it doesn't seem to be any definitive resolution. Just what some people are knowing versus what other people are knowing. Okay, but it's fascinating that you can have a topic. Maybe I should give a more full-fledged share on this someday because it really is worth looking into in greater detail. In the meantime, we did an overview of the topic.
Yeah. Okay. Shkach.
Okay. Have a good week. Take care.
You too. Bye.